So it's become clear in the past few weeks that the pendulum is swinging back towards the relationship between employers and employees, and the era of the free lunches and the perks and the amenities and even remote work and hybrid work is going away. We're going to take a look at some of the articles and just sort of react and see where this is headed. Next up. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw, and we are talking about the pendulum swinging back towards bosses are going to get a little tougher at work. It's if you've been frustrated by the happy-go-lucky, great employee workplaces, things like that, it's about to swing back in the favor of actually getting work done and people working at their desk. Joining me on this one is the man behind the computers, behind the scenes. Chris, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm the professional button pusher.
You push the buttons. You push all of the buttons correctly. You make me look awesome. And again, I tell people I'm just a pretty face. The real magician is behind the camera.
Gee, thanks.
And you're sexy as hell too. So don't sell yourself short, Chris.
Sure.
All right. So the idea on this episode, there's been a lot of articles, and Chris and I do a lot of research in terms of what kind of content we want to put on the show, and we've been stacking up a bunch of these lately. So the first one I want to talk about, if you pull up the New York Times article about the era of happy tech workers is over. This was earlier, a couple of weeks ago. January 19th is the article. So first of all, this is an illustration. Well, it would be great if that yellow thing just stopped popping up.
It's an AI image, AI generated image.
Oh, okay. When it comes up, look at it. Okay, here we go. Really quick. Oh, person laying on the couch with a laptop and an umbrella. It reminds me of WALL-E. Remember that movie WALL-E where there was these people that were just sitting on these couches, just kind of laying around and laying. There's a disco ball in this. All right, so
yeah.
And again, it's interesting. This is from the New York Times. So it's got a definite sort of like, woe is us, but Silicon Valley as we know it, with its radically transparent company cultures, empowered employees, flat hierarchies, and rarefied perks like nap pods and free food, is quickly disappearing, and it's unlikely to return.
I want a nap pod. What the heck? Who has a nap pod? I need one. I'm tired of just sleeping on my desk, head down. I want to properly nap at work, and we definitely need that.
Quote from Chris: "I'm tired of napping on my desk." Do you remember that Seinfeld episode where George was, looking he actually created a little nap space under his desk when he was working for the Yankees? And again, maybe this is showing my age. Do you remember the show Seinfeld, Chris?
I do.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
All right.
Episode per se.
Yeah. The idea was that he was not very important at work, and so he just decided that he wanted to sleep, and instead of trying to find a location to sleep, he just built a little bed underneath his desk, and that's where it was. And I think that's where the idea of the nap pod kind of came into place. I remember, during the, some of the boom times in Silicon Valley, people would come up with, this little quiet room, and they would have a little bed or a couch or something where you could kind of sleep in. It's like, all right, do we really need, nap time? Has this turned into a daycare at the office?
Hey, I mean, getting paid to sleep, that's a great job. I wouldn't mind that.
So obviously, the shift, the shift was noticed obviously after Elon Musk took over at Twitter, and you saw a lot of things just sort of go away. It's the fact that they're now selling a lot of that equipment. So you have a video too. I think we want to play, and this was a famous video that went around.
Yeah, I mean this kind of sums it up, and it's kind of old news, but yeah. I mean, it ties in perfectly to what we're talking about. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Here we go.
Welcome to a day in my life as a Twitter employee. So this past week, went to SF for the first time at a Twitter office.
For the first time?
Okay.
Well, maybe she was a remote worker or
everything in. What a blessing. Also started my morning off with an iced matcha from the perch.
That's something I would never drink.
So quickly scheduled one of these little pod rooms.
Oh, wait, okay, so this is the sleep pod.
That might just be a silent work pod. Oh, there's the food.
How delicious this food looks. Oh my
the food.
goodness,
We're going to get to the food next.
Then made my way down to this log cabin area. I don't know what this is, but it was really
I don't know what that is either.
So you can take mini vacations during your work.
Foosball, that's nothing new. I mean, foosball and ping pong was always the big, selling point for all the hip companies and startups. There's a massage. Oh, yoga.
But they have this yoga room if you were a yogi. So also thought that was really cool. Had a couple more meetings.
Oh, she actually did work.
And had a ton of projects that we needed to knock out.
Yep.
Say hi to my teammates. Went to the library to kind of get some more work done. Obviously,
I like the music in the background too, Chris.
Coffee, so made some espresso, and then before leaving for the day, had some red wine.
Red wine. Whoa.
Hold on, I gotta pause this. Hold on.
Can you bring that back? Can you reverse that at all or no?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me. For a second, I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, wait, that's not fruit punch. That's not fruit punch. Hold on. Let me just back this up a little bit. Just to make sure, we're getting our facts right.
Yep.
We're getting our facts right. Let's play this again here. Let me go back to that stream.
To have our afternoon coffee, so made some espresso, and then before leaving for the day, had some red wine on.
Red wine on tap.
Went up to the rooftop.
Wait. Okay, okay. Well, we'll pause it there for a second. Hold on a second, because we look up our sources beforehand. We kind of run through them. We sift through them, especially if we bring on media like this, right? This clip, right? I think I must have skipped over that part because wait a minute,
that was a shock to me.
Tap?
Yeah. I know.
What? I've seen, some hip companies with, the beer taps in the islands and stuff like that, but wine on tap. Wow.
Yeah. The closest I ever got at a workplace was probably, you bring in a couple of 6-packs of beer. It's a Friday afternoon, 4:00, 4:30, right about before the day is supposed to end, and you have a little mini party. And most people that do drink, they're not going to immediately drink and then drive home. I mean, that's insane.
But the other thing too to point out, hold on, let me go back to this here 1 second. Let me just. That's like a lot. I think she's ready to go to her next meeting. I think. Like she's getting primed for she must have a bad meeting she's going to.
Well, no, because then the next clip is then her going up to the rooftop to just enjoy the view.
Right, yeah, here, let's go back to that.
Went up to the rooftop and just honestly enjoyed the beautiful
that's cornhole, by the way.
weather. So, awesome trip.
Jeez.
Have you played,
Okay.
Book unforgettable.
Hold on, let me pause that.
Have you played cornhole?
Yeah, barbecues and parties and stuff like that, but no, not at work. I mean, I don't get paid to play cornhole.
There was an HR sponsored party, probably about 6 or 7 years ago. We were in a different building, and they had like a themed party to try to get people to know each other better, and they had set up a cornhole thing. But you had to it was a cubicle hallway that they set up this. So it was a long hallway, and then at one end they had one of the corner. And it was like, if you're really inaccurate here, you're going to be hitting someone in the head that's sitting there trying to do work. And it was like, okay, maybe cornhole in the middle of an office is not the best idea. So, is there anything else, in terms of that video?
No, I mean, it really just kind of highlights. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's you kind of have to question yourself: Are people actually working? If you have that many perks at your job,
right? And it turned out that I think that girl got fired, or that employee did end up losing her job during the other. After Elon Musk took over. So, and I'm sure that a lot of those perks are going away. But the next story I want to talk about, bring up the New York Times one about the cafeteria. This was a longer feature. The corporate cafeteria is broken, so how to feed workers. Kudos to them. Go back up.
Yes.
I love that photo. It's such an old school. This was probably from the 1950s or 60s, maybe.
Yeah.
It's probably, an IBM-like company, and this is probably the secretarial pool. It looks like there's a lot of females there, so that they were probably...
Yeah, and you have to imagine there's probably a lot of team building going on, a lot of socializing, a lot of like getting to know one another, a lot of camaraderie. But what is this article going to?
Well, so when I found this article, I sent this to you, and you almost blew a gasket when I talked about the opening quote. So the lead is, the corporate cafeteria can be an especially lonely place these days.
Well, no kidding. Anyway, sorry.
All right, so then the quote is, you used to walk in at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday and stand in line to get something, said Casey Allen, 46, who works for a division of the agricultural chemical company BASF in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now you walk in and you're usually first in line. So then they're basically saying that, the corporate dining area, the cafeteria, is basically going away, but they don't really say it's because nobody's in the office. I think most of the people...
No, you're right.
They
don't bring it up. They just kind of assume that everybody knows right now, but you're going to have companies who, want to bring people back and stuff. And it's like especially running with a headline like that, like corporate cafeterias are broken. Well, they're not.
No, it's just broken. That they're empty.
They're empty because we told everybody not to come into work,
right,
and to work from home. So they're not broken. They're perfectly operational. You just need people in them. So it's I don't get it.
Yeah. So then further down a little bit is even at companies like Meta, which this month announced that it would lay off 126 cafeteria employees. I can't believe they would have that many employees.
That's a lot of cafeteria employees.
Yeah.
What do we got? 2?
Apparently now workers are skipping the free meals in a quest to leave the office as soon as possible. So it's like they come in, they work for 10 minutes, and then they go home, and then they work at home for the rest of the time.
Wait, hold on. Even at companies like Meta, which this month announced that it would lay off, workers are skipping the free meals.
Right, you can't even get people to eat free food anymore.
I mean, especially today. Heck, I take a free meal. Come on. The way things are going and cost of things, cost of living and all that. That'd be, a big draw, at least for me.
You have a problem sort of too with the types of food that a lot of these cafeterias were, and we saw that in a little bit in that Twitter video. Food is getting, cafeteria food or lunch food for a lot of younger workers is getting fancier or food snobbery, I want to call it. I don't know. I'm an old guy, so I don't want to say how old I am, but when I had a cafeteria and I could get a burger or a sandwich or those, it was, the big thing was Chicken Finger Thursday, when when people actually ran down because they knew that they were going to get a cool chicken Caesar salad or the buffalo wing sauce. Right. People liked that, and that actually encouraged people to not bring in their lunch that day and actually go down to the cafeteria. We had one of the best meetings I ever had was down in the cafeteria. It was 5 of us. We all just decided to go down there. We came up with some really interesting story ideas based on the lunch that we were having. That's where collaboration sometimes happens. Should I tell you what the idea was? Because it was, or should I just leave it be?
Just leave it be.
Okay.
We got to get into some of this. This here is fascinating to me. The level at some of these companies will go to accommodate to workers at their company. For example, you just see here, examples. Spaces for rest and recreation were built into the remodel of what was formerly known as the Condé Nast building. So you have, in this article, what were the companies that they referred to? I know Condé Nast is one of them. There's a couple other.
Meta.
Yeah, Meta. A couple of, big tech companies, media companies, stuff like that. And it's like, wow, I wouldn't complain whatsoever if I worked at one of these and they offered amenities like these. Come on, cocktails or cooking classes or some of the amenities for people who work in the building. I'll go into the office to do that or, to get free classes and stuff like that. It's just, mind-blowing, the length that, they'll go to. And
all right,
to get kind of like this pushback on that, like cafeterias are dead and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe their messaging just needs to change.
Well, later on in the article, if you go down again a little bit, this is what I was bringing up before. Employees, especially younger ones, are demanding more culturally authentic meals and climate-friendly kitchen protocols, they're demanding that their cafeteria staff make sure they recycle everything, and they're eating less meat and questioning labor practices. It's like,
it's, being
that young and being concerned about that many things must be exhausting.
I mean, you got to think they're probably not using electric stoves.
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean,
I don't get it.
I think from a general, maybe this is just two old guys, yelling at the cloud now because we're just
Yeah, apologize to the viewers who are watching, but it's fascinating to see stuff like this. So.
All right, so that was that article. Let's. So then the next one, just another example. This is for tech companies, years of easy money yield to hard times. So this was more about a lot of the financing, and there was so much money for startups that they spent into those types of things to get employees, and that was the whole. I think they talk about Carvana.
Yep.
Carvana built dozens of flashy car vending machines across the country, marketed itself relentlessly, and offered very attractive prices for trade-ins. But now that's all going away too. Like a lot of the flash is now going away, and so. We've talked on this show before about tech jobs. I think our last episode was, that there's a silver lining around technology jobs, and there is, if you're a tech worker and you've got tech skills, you're probably going to find a pretty good gig.
Right.
But I think that the companies that were trying to use the flashiness and you don't really have to come into work. You only have to do a couple of meetings, and I think that's swinging back. We are seeing things like if you pull up the next article. Oh, not that one. Do you have the one remote workers? Yeah, here it is. The job market. This is the Wall Street Journal. The job market for remote workers is shrinking.
Which one's that one?
It's a Wall Street Journal one.
Is it the one with Apple?
It's the one with it's the one with the cat on the laptop.
Cat on the laptop. Let me find that one. Let me see. Anyway, just go ahead and talk about it.
So, basically the headline is that the remote job opportunities are dwindling as fewer employers feel the need to lure talent with the promise of working from home. And so if you are trying to find a job these days, I think employers are like, all right, we're okay with our existing employees having that flexible hybrid work style. And we're fine with that. But for new employees that we're going to hire, or, moving forward, we're going to start adding requirements for coming back to the office. And so the listings, if you are dead set on working in the remote, the opportunities are fewer and fewer.
Yeah, it's going to be a rude awakening for new workers coming in and looking for jobs, because it's going to get smaller and smaller. And just going back to what you said a minute ago about we will eventually no longer have a need, for example, like Carvana and stuff like that. People who, because of the business model, right? It's a car, company that sells cars, on the internet, right?
Yeah.
You just get it, they deliver it to you, and that's it. It's like, well, once things start going back to normal, their business is gonna dwindle, because it's just how it is.
People are going to go back to car dealers at some point, or some people like going to a car dealer.
Exactly,
I don't, but I also don't want to. I don't know. I just want to have a car, I guess. I only buy a car like every 10 to 15 years anyway. So,
yeah.
But within this article too, they also talked about, Walt Disney, which are now stepping up the number of days that hybrid employees are going to be required. And this is after Bob Iger took over. There's a CNBC article that I know that, like, again, more proof that this is the ones that, Bob Iger tells Disney employees they must return to the office 4 days a week. Now, that's pretty impressive. I mean, most hybrid work scenarios you see are 2 to 3 days in the office, and most companies that I've been talking to or heard about is, usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the big days where you're going to be in the office.
I mean, props to them. I mean, for taking a stand and, you know, doing something, you know, that he thinks is, you know, right and is right for the business. Like, that's, you know, good on him for doing that. Especially, you know, Disney being a creative outlet or a media outlet, right? Technically, it's a media outlet.
Right.
Or at this point, I don't know, maybe a licensing company, right? The way it's licensing.
They are just a mega entertainment company.
Yeah, they're a mega company.
Hold on, let me take a sip of my red wine here.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. But you know, I just lost.
Disney Mega Entertainment. Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the like creative aspect, right? So, you know, they have their movie studios and stuff like that. They have their theme parks, right? It's like, especially if you're in the creative industry, you kind of want to be back to work in person, so you can collaborate and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think it makes a lot of sense for Disney.
Yeah, I want to actually go back to. Do you remember? I just remember something. The Twitter video where the lady was walking through the, you know, showing her day, and I felt like if I did this, now I'm not on TikTok or, you know, Instagram or any of the cool hip social media, but it would be like sitting in traffic at my commute, and then 3 seconds later, it'd be like still stuck.
You didn't want to pull out your wine tap and just.
Taking a sip of my soda or my coffee while, you know, then I was like, get to work. Oh, I forgot my key. I have to get buzzed in again.
I will say I have this fine can of Spindrift. Some Spindrift product placement here. Spindrift, if you're watching.
What is that? That is not, I've never.
Spindrift. It's a seltzer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, you're one generation younger than me, so you're much more hip than I. Plus, you have the world's most awesome beard.
I'm not that hip.
Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, so yeah, I just think that. Oh, and then, you know, the video would end with, you know, me walking into the office and showing you. And you'd be like scowling at me, going, "What's our next show? When are we doing it?" No, you're not like that, Chris.
You should do one of these. You should do one of these.
I think the time it's probably already been parodied. It's I don't know. We have to do like 20 other things here in terms of videos.
So I don't know. What can we take away from all this?
Well, obviously, it's. The idea of the Great Resignation that people were touting in the media, like, oh, employees have all this power. And, you know, there was a big fear that if companies started to try to enforce this back to work policy or back to the office, back to, you know, I think everyone was afraid that it was like, well, because of the Great Resignation, well, I'll just quit my job and find one that where I can. At some point, that's got to start dwindling. And you're starting to see that with a lot of these companies that are doing layoffs. And then if they're going to rehire and grow again, they're probably not going to offer the same kind of amenities and productives. The other thing is like, I think that there needs to be a re-energization. Oh, it's a horrible word.
Yeah,
re-energization, which I just made up that word, but you got to get people excited to go back to work and be productive and just enjoy. I don't want to say enjoy work, but get into that mindset of you can't just lay around in your pajamas. And again, I know that's a cliche as well. Because again, you and I do work at home. We are hybrid schedule here. I think we do most of our recordings in the middle of the week in the studio. But on the other hand, you know, I'm still sitting at a computer.
Well, you do bring up a valid point about the whole sitting there in your pajamas. If you're a remote worker, right? Does anybody know you're sitting in your pajamas? No one's gonna know.
Right.
No one's gonna know. But if you come into the office, you're not gonna come in wearing pajamas.
Right.
Right. And now the other thing too about working at home, it's like, are we really working? Are we really working?
And again, a lot depends on the type of business that you're doing.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of the media types, we get to call sources and work on emails and do interviews, and you don't necessarily, there's some, but I think you miss some of the collaboration and maybe some of the ideas that you miss from sitting around a coffee table or, just kind of doing the chit chat in an office setting, because you are supposed to be professional, even though I get to wear hoodies, and that's just for my on-screen persona. So, I think, big picture, this is going to swing back until maybe the economy gets better, or there's another big tech boom and you start seeing companies like Twitter and Google and Amazon and Facebook / Meta. If they start another wave where they start going up again and they start needing more employees, but I think maybe they're going to be a little bit more cautious about what they're offering to employees. Like it's going to be like the wave was big here, and now the next wave is going to be only like here in terms of the types of benefits that you get. Or maybe it's just two grumpy old guys yelling at a cloud. That could be it too.
Yeah, I mean, no, go ahead.
Well, what would be your goal? What would be the ultimate goal for you, Chris, in terms of what would you like to see as the workplace of the future without any kind of threat, any kind of like fear of pandemics or anything like that? What would be your goal, dream scenario for an office place? Have you thought about that?
A little bit. I mean, for me, I would rather be in the office 5 days a week, just because of the nature of, my job, right? Yeah. We got to be here in the studio. We have to shoot and, edit and stuff like that. We got to collaborate. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, like maybe a Monday or Friday, you work from home, right? I believe strongly in the aspect of just like socializing, to be able to work in person, to have that capability to look at someone in the eyes and talk about something, right? Right now, right? Like, I'm looking at you talking, right?
I'm just ignoring you.
I think a lot of people would be surprised at how productive you can be if you were in office as opposed to being remote, right?
Yeah.
But
there's outliers on both as well. I mean, there used to be days when I'd be, you would know people that you could spend a whole day in the office and not get any work done because either you're sitting in a lot of meetings, which can be problematic, or you sit around and chat with people for a while and you realize, oh my gosh, it's 5:30 or it's 5 o'clock, and there's a definition of what is work, and depending on the role, whether you can do it or not. It all takes discipline either way. I mean, if you're working at home, there's discipline. If you're working at an office, there should be some discipline, and make sure you actually get some work done and be productive.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. Definitely pros and cons.
And there's definitely something about the work-life balance that I forgot to bring up. Like, I've got a bunch of kids, and it was nice being in, when I was freelance writing, it was nice to just be able to say, oh, I need to pick up my kids and take them to the dentist, or, that kind of thing is very flexible. If you get, if I had a job where I had to be at an office for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, yeah, that kind of, cuts into that time. So it was nice to be able to do that. I felt like I did get a better relationship with my kids. Yeah. And I don't want to return to the 1950s or 60s where it's like, the dad goes to work and wears a tie, and the kids never see him until he gets home, and those days are over. I think there needs to be something. So I haven't really thought of my dream scenario of what I would like the future office to be. I would like to have more people in the office as well, but I don't want to return to the days of, you're sitting and locked in a cube and you can't make any noise either, like the Dilbert world or the Office Space.
Right. Yeah. I do think there needs to at least be, one day at the beginning or end of the week. I mean, there's already talks about having a 4-day week anyways.
Yeah.
I've seen articles jump around that. I don't have any article up right now, but I can probably pull one up.
Yeah.
But there's already talks about that happening anyways. A lot of businesses thinking about like, let's just have a 4-day work week, because then you don't need to worry so much about, picking which day you come in. Just have a 3-day weekend.
Right.
Just have a 3-day weekend from moving forward. Just do that.
Yeah.
Just give an extra day.
Most of these are basically Monday through Thursday, and they usually take that Friday off, right? Or it's not Tuesday to Friday, and they take Monday off. Because who would want to take a Monday off? Mondays stink.
Yeah, Mondays are Mondays,
Hey, Garfield was right, man. I hate Mondays. I love lasagna.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all the time we've got for today's episode. Thanks for having this therapy session with me, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
That's what I'm here.
And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and add any comments that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.